Hello and welcome to Dream Life Designer, where I help you reach your goals and make your dreams a reality. I'm Lauren, and in today's video I'm going to share with you 5 people who failed before they succeeded. I come out with new videos every week, so be sure to subscribe and click on the bell so that you're the first to know about them. Let's get started looking at these 5 people. So I wanted to share with you today about these 5 people because I wanted to give you a little motivation. It can be challenging sometimes when we encounter failures to just feel like we are a failure and to give up. And if you watched my earlier video about grit, you'll know that the people who achieve a lot in life are the ones who stick with it, who follow through. I wanted to make this video to share with you some encouraging stories about people who encountered a lot of struggles and failures, but continued on to be successful. Because in our own lives, it can be difficult when we encounter a challenge or a failure, and it can make us feel like a failure and like we can't achieve what we're reaching for. So I wanted to share this with you to give you a little bit of encouragement. The first person we're going to look at is Jack Canfield. You may not recognize that name, but I bet you will recognize what he created. Jack Canfield is a motivational speaker and the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books that came out and were really popular in the 90s. He has over 250 titles in print and has sold more than 500 million copies in 40 different languages. But success didn't come easily to Jack Canfield. When he first got started with that first Chicken Soup for the Soul book, he approached and was rejected by 144 different publishers before he finally found a publisher to print that first book. I bet those other publishers are very much regretting not sticking with him. But that's a lot of rejection to face, 144 times. Would you keep going if you faced rejection that many times? It's a good thing that he did. The next person we're going to look at is also an author. This is author J.K. Rowling of the Harry Potter book series. Over 500 million books of this series have been sold. Rowling has won awards, has had her books made into a movie series, and also has a theme park created after her books. And she is the world's first billionaire author. But earlier on in her career, J.K. Rowling was not that successful. 7 years after college, and 3 years after she had started writing the first Harry Potter book, J.K. Rowling found herself jobless, living off of welfare, a single mother, and diagnosed with clinical depression. But she continued on. She finished that book in 2 more years after that, and then after she finished the book, she submitted it to publishers. Now, she wasn't rejected by publishers as much as Jack Canfield was, but she was still rejected 12 times before a publisher finally picked up her book. And even when it was picked up, they told her she wouldn't make much money off of it, that it wouldn't sell that many copies. Little did they know the success that Harry Potter would be. The next person is Sir James Dyson. Now, you might not know who he is offhand, but you might recognize that last name. He is the inventor of the bagless Dyson vacuum cleaner that is one of the most popular vacuums in the UK and in the United States. He is the chief executive of Dyson Unlimited and has become a billionaire through his inventions. But before his success, Dyson experimented for 5 years on prototypes to create the Dyson vacuum. He created 5,127 prototypes before he finally came upon one that worked. Talk about failure after failure after failure and still sticking with it to see success. When he finally created a vacuum that would work, there were no manufacturers or distributors in the UK where he lived that would distribute it. So he had to go elsewhere. After exhausting his options in the UK, he finally found a market for his vacuum in Japan. But it was 10 more years before his vacuum finally got a foothold in the UK and became the success that it is today. The fourth person we're going to talk about is someone I'm sure you know of. It is Walt Disney. Walt Disney is known all around the world as a famous entrepreneur, animator, and filmmaker. Walt Disney holds the record for most Academy Awards won by one individual. He also expanded from his animation and filmmaking into creating theme parks that are all around the world. No one can argue that Disney is a huge success, but before that, he met with several failures before he reached that success. In 1920, Disney and his friend Ub Iwerks started a commercial artist business, but they had very few customers at that time. So that didn't work out. Then in 1921, he started Laugh-O-Gram Studio with another partner, Fred Harmon, but that business wasn't very successful either and quickly went bankrupt. Then in 1923, Walt Disney and his brother Roy started Disney Brothers Studio, which did get off to a bit better start, but unfortunately, they lost most of their animation staff to another producer they were working with who hired them out from underneath the Disney Brothers. So they had to go back to square one and get started all over again with that. It wasn't until 1928, 8 years after his initial business that he'd started, that Walt Disney finally started to see sustained growth of a business that eventually resulted in the success of the Walt Disney Company that we know today, that's known all around the world. So time after time, Walt started companies, they failed. He started another, they failed, until finally he got one to stick and to grow. And the fifth person we're going to look at is a bit more recent success story. This is Sarah Blakely, the creator of Spanx Shapewear and a self-made millionaire. In 2012, she was listed as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. And in 2014, she was listed in Forbes as the 94th most powerful woman in the world. Originally, Sarah Blakely wanted to be an attorney, but when she took the LSAT, she scored low. She studied hard, took it again, and scored even lower the next time on the LSAT. So she moved away from being an attorney, and she started selling fax machines door to door, which when she started off, she had lots of doors slammed in her face, but she stuck with it for 7 years, and she eventually became very successful as a salesperson for that company. During those 7 years, she used her free time to try and figure out what she really wanted to do with her life, because that wasn't her passion. And she decided she enjoyed selling, but she wanted to sell something that she cared about, that she had created. Once she came up with the idea for her Spanx Shapewear, she spent 2 years researching and developing her idea for Spanx Shapewear, and then went to the majority of U.S. hosiery mills where they manufacture hosiery for women. Every representative for the manufacturers rejected her idea. Finally, she did receive a phone call from a mill operator that would support her idea, but it took a lot of rejection and sticking with it before she finally got there. I wanted to end with our fifth person as Sarah Blakely because I wanted to share a little bit about her mindset. She credits a lot of her success to her father. At the end of every week, her father would ask them at the dinner table, "What did you fail at this week?" He wanted to encourage his children to try new things, to stretch themselves, to not play it safe, to not see failing at something as a bad thing, but to actually see it as a good thing, that they were trying hard enough to fail. And he wanted them to see that real failure is not trying at all, is not putting yourself out there. So even though Sarah had to face failure as an attorney and had to do something else that she didn't really care that much about at first, she was able to continue on and find a way to be successful and to do what she loved. And she stuck with it until she got that success she was looking for. She wasn't afraid to stretch herself and to hear no and to get rejected. She didn't let that tear her down because of that mindset that failure is a good thing and you need to push yourself. That also ties in with the video I made a while back that's grit versus talent. And I encourage you, if you haven't watched that video yet, to take a look at that video. It goes into more detail about how grit and sticking with something is really vital in achieving your dreams. And these people are a key example of that. These 5 people who all face lots of failures. Some of them, I can't even imagine facing that much failure before reaching success, but they stuck with it and they kept going, or they found a different way until they got the success that they wanted. So I hope this encourages you. If you're facing failures, don't give up. Don't let that stop you. Keep going. Keep pursuing your dreams. Find a way to make it happen, or stick with it and stay persistent, because you can do it. You just have to stick with it. I hope you find these 5 people as encouraging as I do, and I hope you remember them when you're facing a failure in your life, that it doesn't mean you're a failure, that it just means that you are pushing yourself, you are working hard, and it's actually a good sign that you are stretching yourself enough to actually make something happen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.